Peace and blessings, Black family. Our melanated family, welcome to another Melanated Solutions Media broadcast live stream. We are coming to you today. I'm Kashama Sankofa.
And
we have, go ahead, Duke.
And
Introduce
I'm Duke.
man.
Glad to be with you all again. I'm a poet and coordinator here for Melanated Solutions Media. Thank you for coming in. We see Deshaun, Black Power to you too, brother.
Hotep, brother.
Guess we get started here with the current. I'm sorry, family feedback. I do have a couple of comments here. We'll start. So our last discussion, we were talking about how to be pro-Black as an artist and making sure that we bring forth that light. So some of the comments from the last session include from Tone Danae that we have to make time to cultivate our spiritual center to override any material trauma the society tries to throw at us. Comment from Deji simply told us to spill tea, and that Lowell B. Denny said, "I need this every week. Thank you, brothers." Kat Mahari said that as a street and club dancer, the lack of community control nationally and globally is rampant, which is a direct program on the agenda of anti-Blackness. And lastly, over on YouTube, we had Brother Jamal James. It says that these brothers have so much knowledge, poise, and are deeply on code with their Black culture. Only so many views, but so many people are missing out on insightful information that can only empower us. We need each other, and we better demonstrate beyond the cliche. So thank you to everyone who left some feedback there, and hope you're sharing with friends. Again, you can catch us not only on our Facebook channels, but also over on YouTube through Melanated Solutions Media.
So before we get into the current events, though, Duke, I want to go ahead and explain to any of you that are new to our viewing audience. Melanated Solutions Media, we're dedicated to addressing issues that affect and are relevant to Black people. So we're going to talk about everything from culture to politics to Black wellness, and that can cover a variety of topics. But today, we come to you with the topic of Decepticons, and it's Decepticons, white people pretending to be Black.
They didn't go with my original title. I said Decepticons, white people in disguise.
Well, but the other one was closer to the actual theme of the Transformers. So I never saw the movie, but you get it. And if you saw the flyer, either on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or I believe it's on YouTube as well, you can also follow us on all of those outlets. You will see the various images of the Decepticons or suspected Decepticons, because some of them haven't come out as a Decepticon. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and roll into some current events. Okay, so usually we do a more in-depth current event section where we cover a wider range of topics because a lot goes on, and this is 2020. Let's not forget. But in the interest of keeping these key significant historical events in perspective and giving them their due, unpacking and analysis, we decided to just, briefly talk about the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but also to talk a lot about, and more than we usually talk about current events, about the recent verdict in the case of the murder of our dear sister, Breonna Taylor. Yep. So with Ruth Bader, I mean, I'm concerned about the idea of the gender dynamic overriding, anti-Blackness, and people really not understanding. I think the idea of intersectionalism, and this is going to be an unpopular opinion, But hey, this is that show. This is that show where we going in. Intersectionalism has really done a job on Black political cohesion, and it's chiseling away. And we have to work overtime to present the correct narrative when it comes to issues like this, because too many people are praising Ruth Bader Ginsburg because white media, and I'm believe me, I'm going in on the white media too later on in this show. So get ready. But because white media props her up as this hero and this matron saint, and too many Black people just consume the media, and we don't properly give it a critical analysis. We take things as is. What you think about that, Duke?
So I'm in agreement, but I think my bigger focus is, as I know that when we were discussing, all right, what topics are we going to throw out in our current event section in order to really center Breonna Taylor, I know I stuck with this one because I feel like Ruth Bader Ginsburg also falls in, for me, into that Decepticons argument, and not necessarily in pretending to be Black, but when we look at how certain Black communities responded to her death by putting her on this pedestal next to Chadwick Boseman and then other Black leaders, and comparing her to Malcolm X. And it was just like this idea that she was central and essential to Black liberation and policy and tactics is completely false, especially if you look at the way that she responded to individuals like Colin Kaepernick, or the way that she responds on issues of police brutality, in which she has voted on in the past. When I look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I'm like, all right, cool, she did that. And it's a really interesting place. And I'm glad that we're also going to have some sisters on today for our discussion. But it's an interesting place that I find myself in as a Black male, and I'm just like, I can't celebrate this. I can't champion this woman on the behalf of Black women. Like, and it was confusing to me to see her put in that light.
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't even see it as championing her on behalf of Black women, because the whole idea of her standing up for women in general is a false idea. There's no such thing as women in general. And I think it actually does Black women a disservice when we talk about women in general, knowing full well that Black women have had the worst political plight than any other, group of women in this country, arguably. And I mean, and I'm not getting into whether, indigenous women or, whatever have had it harder than or less hard than Black women. I'm just saying it to make a point. It's a very unique and exceptional position that the Black woman has been placed into in this, not only this country, but in any country that was colonized by whites, and where Black people were enslaved, and that legacy of oppression continues. So I don't see it as championing for Black women. And when Black women are expressing this idea, I just agree to disagree with them sisters.
uh, so well,
I respect.
hopefully, and I invite anyone, some of those sisters, if they happen to be watching, if someone shares this with them, when we do open up our discussion, for them to come on in, because I know that it
Oh,
has
wow.
been a discussion happening in some of the circles. But
The comment sections are going in, Duke.
oh, I would love so working on this new device. Let's see.
And Shira, well, so let's start from the top.
Hmm.
Dr. Sharice Nelson is in the house.
She
How you
just
doing,
said
Doc?
yes.
She said
I'm
yes.
with you. I'm with you, Sharice. Yes.
Sandra Muhammad said,
Hmm.
say that. And Nashira Saran said, come for the white media. Also said, I don't appreciate propaganda. China Dickerson say more. China Dickerson, she apologized to Cap. Sandra Muhammad says, while some Black folks have decided to jump onto the idolized Ginsburg train, I share history rather than his story. If you confirm me for this job, my attractiveness to Black candidates is going to improve. Ruth Ginsburg during 1993 confirmation hearings. What the hell did that response even mean? Well, during her entire career, first of all, thank you, Sister Muhammad, for breaking this down.
We love a good receipt.
Well, during her entire career on the bench as a U.S. Supreme Court justice, apparently only one Black was ever qualified to serve on her staff, while indigenous people have also jumped and there appears to be more. So
Mm-hmm.
China Dixon says she is against qualified immunity. Says black women don't seek to have abortions. Somebody wait, that's what China
China Dickinson
said.
is questioning us, and so I have a response. And if there's another comment down below where she said asking if black women don't seek equal pay, essentially looking at some of the policies that Ruth Bader Ginsburg uh, voted on in her abolitionist views, and saying that black women benefited by that.
And also, I would like to say this also when it comes to the question of of black women and abortions.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that there is an issue of black women having control of their own reproductive organs and their own bodies. That is something that black women should have a right to. And the only people that have ever stood in the way of that have usually been white men. Also, on the other hand, I believe that it's disingenuous to fight for something that white women need, and then to claim, well, you black women need it too, but then also not looking at the unique perspective of a black woman, as well as far as what are some of the factors that influence black women's need or desire to have to seek abortions as well.
Mm-hmm.
We sometimes the numbers of black abortions is used to criticize black people, and is also used to try to consolidate black people into a more conservative, so-called pro-life movement. When in fact, those movements do not address the contradictions of black people, what causes black women to not have to be able to go through with the pregnancy, and neither does the other side of the coin either, the ones who are fighting for it. So that's a key example on how we need to learn how to really isolate what pertains to us as a people and what would truly change our material condition, and not to let white agendas get us caught up with and supporting people who do not have our best interest at heart, but happens to have something that we can get a little piece of
I think for
on the
me,
surface level.
I resonate quite a bit, not fully, but with Lo B. Denny's comment, it says that we simply have to appreciate the function of our allies. It doesn't mean they're friends. We've forgotten the purpose of popular and united fronts, and Ginsburg was an ally. And I'm not prepared because I admit I haven't
I am.
her
I'm
followed her career extensively. Nor do I think any white person is an ally, to be 100% honest. This is just my personal views in politics. I believe that white people are white people. And it takes an extreme amount of work and exercising in order to be as a benefit to black people. And I'm sick of the word ally these days, because it seems like you don't have to do much to be considered an ally. With that in mind, I just think that if we're looking at first, I hate that her acronyms for her name, RGB. Uh, I'm sorry, red, black, and green, RBG. That that is just a mess in its own. But when I look at someone's career like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, apparently someone said that she apologized to Cap. I haven't seen that, but for me, white people apologize for racism all the time. White people apologize I'm sick of this lens of the apology makes it go away. We are in 2020. We know what is the quote unquote right side of history at this point. And we don't need to dance this line of this person messed up in a major way on a huge political issue involving specifically black individuals and black people, and then be like, oh well, they just, I'm not giving her the grace that we wouldn't even give black men who mess up in that kind of way when it comes to black women issues. That's where I stand.
So okay, Ginsburg stood against the rights of the incarcerated. She authored a decision on these. When she authored a decision on some of these issues, it was generally when the court was unanimous or near unanimous. Meanwhile, in split decisions, she generally sided with more liberal justices, but she was not the primary author. Meaning, she told the line to present an image. That's what that sister was referring to when she talked about when she was sworn in. She said, "My image, I will improve my image." On top of that, just her on criminal justice reform period, it's like she's mixed on it, and she remained mixed on the death penalty as well, which we know as Black people is something that we are always disproportionately
Mm-hmm.
affected by. But I think it's time to bring on these sisters, dude, because even before, we don't even need to get into the Breonna Taylor until we have some Black women on here to discuss this, as well as to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I know my good sister and friend Stacey Michelle Gordon is back there backstage. She's an Orlando-based educator and activist. Also, my my old classmate. She's looking like about
You gonna
time.
call my whole government?
What that?
The
No,
whole
you just gonna call my
government.
whole. My thing say
That's what you
Stacy
got
on
on
there.
Facebook. What am I supposed to say? I want people to follow you and get some of this wisdom you drop
Yeah.
daily.
I ain't nobody. I'm just a
Is,
nobody.
is is Dr. Sharice Nelson on here too? Is she in the backstage?
Come on in, Dr. Nelson. We would love to have you again.
Somebody said John Brown been dead. What that mean? They talking about? I guess they talking about allies. That was Cat Mahari. You on point with that, Cat. You're looking for an ally? Go visit John Brown's grave. So, Stacey, I mean, before we get into the situation with Breonna's murder and indictment, what are your thoughts on Ruth Bader Ginsburg, if any? See, how was she mixed on it?
Well, because you were breaking up, I didn't really hear the question. I just heard you said Ruth. Well, first and foremost, I guess I feel so out of touch because I know there was a woman on Supreme Court. I just didn't know her name, and so how I found out she passed, I guess somebody posed Conda forever. And so it's so funny that I heard because that's the first thing I thought. I'm like, the red, black, and green die. Like, I'm not understanding. Like, is she saying red, black, and green forever? Like, I'm not understanding. But listening to what you all were discussing, um, she didn't do nothing significant. For people of color, women, if we're going to help you fight for your rights and you wind up getting them, and yes, they do benefit us, but we have a different plight than you. Your plight is that you can't say anything. Our plight is we can't live anywhere, we can't go anywhere, we can't eat anywhere, we can't bank anywhere. We don't have the same education that you have. We don't have the proper hospitals. Like, so that was our issue. And I just felt like, we pushed theirs, and then when it was time to push ours, a lot of them kind of backed away. And you can't say they didn't because 53% of them voted for Trump. So yeah.
All right.
And then the
Thank-
whole
no, my bad. I just wanted to say, Dr. Nelson doesn't have the link. Adam, can you get that to her? But continue, Stacey. My bad, sis.
oh no, and I it was someone talking about, I guess y'all were talking about women and their bodies and what they do. I have mixed feelings about all of that. Like, I do believe that it was, Singer and everybody else like that, the eugenics really meant to have basically black genocide of ourselves. Like, we don't have to kill you, we'll allow you to kill yourself. And this is what I feel about abortion, just doing my research. Do I believe that everybody has a right to choose on their own body? Yes, I do believe that. Do I believe that a woman has a right to do what she wants to do with her own body? Yes, I do. What I don't like is that 90 some odd percent of people that are getting abortions are using it as a form of birth control, when you have the shot, you have the IUD, you have condoms, you have the foam, you have all these different aspects before, and then you got some people doing 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's just like I don't want to pay for you not
Okay,
going and getting free shot at Walgreens
so,
every 3 months.
so
Like I
Stacy,
don't want to pay for your mistake. I got yeah.
so say no, no. I
But if
not
you
to cut
want it,
you
I
off,
believe you should get it. You should just pay for
but
it.
not to cut you off, Stacy. I don't want to get off topic, but I think the importance of what you are pointing out
I
is the
can't hear
fact
you.
that I think the importance of what you are pointing out is that black women can have diverse views on this subject. And that, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg is for a certain issue that is gender specific, especially to white women, that doesn't necessarily mean that black women are going to share your views. Black people do have logical questions and anxieties around genocide.
So
What you gonna
it's
do about this, sisters? Questions around genocide.
Okay,
Ruth?
this is what I have to say. Because somebody put crack in your face don't mean you have to take it. Now, I'm not saying that I got in trouble in my African history class because they kept telling us we were great, we were great, we were great. Okay, well, guys, y'all, if we were so great, what happened? Where was it where we were here on top in BC in the beginning of AD, and then 1619, boom, like what happened? And what happened is selfishness. We lost community. We got people want to be other people want to take other people's stuff. And I feel as if you build those foundations, no matter what somebody throws at you, it's like fortifying the fort. We forgot to fortify. And then we always want to blame somebody. I cannot continue to blame the banana peel I slipped on, because blaming in the banana peel we slipped on is continuous to having podcasts about police brutality 60 years after Martin Luther King said the same thing. So now I need to look at what steps did I take towards the banana peel that I could have avoided the peel altogether. And that's where I am. And those are the questions that I ask, because I am tired of talking about people who, we claim we know want to destroy us. Okay, now we know that they want to destroy us. What are we going to do? And that's how we always need to continue to focus. Now that they don't want us to eat at their counters, what are we going to do? And desegregation to me was the worst thing that happened to African Americans. Not saying that it was the worst thing, period, because we did need to have the access to freely roam. However, by having the access to freely roam, we lost our community, and we left people who weren't educated behind, and hence
Okay,
now we have hoods.
Stacy, let me get in real quick. Well, okay, so first of all, let me let Dr. Nelson, Dr. Sharice Nelson, I just sent you a message via Facebook Messenger with the link so that you can join in. Also, I do want to stick to the subject because we do shows all the time, Stacey, where we address like what happened on the continent, pre-colonialism, and the whole
Okay.
politics of it. There are various stories on how certain groups of us became enslaved and blah 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 blah. But I want to stick to the idea of Dr. Not Dr. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, her death, the significance of it with Black people. But actually, I
What
only
significance? I'm trying. I'm sorry.
the,
What?
the argument is from us is that there is none. But I actually want Dr. Sharice Nelson to get on here because I get the feeling that she may offer a different perspective. And Dr. Nelson, if you can please get on here fast, sis.
uh,
Do you have any words on
yeah.
that?
So I wanted to respond because we're still talking about the dynamics of Ruth Bader. So one, Lowell B. Denny said that due to 8 people here, and the host know that the U.S. Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, and Ginsburg was so pissed at this, she read her dissent from the bench and refused to include the customary "I respectfully disagree." And so this is apparently showing like the qualities, positive qualities of someone like Ruth Bader, and what it means for individuals of individual Black people. However, in addition to that, a brother named Lawrence on my friends list happened to point out this week that, in case you were wondering, a critical part of the reason that Breonna Taylor cops weren't charged was because the Supreme Court decision of LA versus Mendez stated that the cops can claim self-defense and thus be immune from prosecution even when instigating the situation. This was a unanimous decision, including the quote unquote beloved RBG. And so there's dynamics to this, and we're talking about, you know, like, what does she do for Black people, let alone Black women? And this woman happened to be at a key part of why police brutality is such an ongoing issue in our communities, and how they get away from this on a political and lawful manner.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing though is something that Kashama said at the beginning, right? I think one of the biggest things is that our problem is not um our problem is not recognizing Ruth Bader Ginsburg for her goods and for her ills. Our problem is this need to canonize any person. That to me is our problem. Our problem is not necessarily having a discussion about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's ills versus anybody's ills. Our problem is that we want to then canonize whoever it is, and we don't want to take a balanced approach. Because if we were to do so, right, we could talk about Black men, and we could talk about Frederick Douglass, not Frederick Douglass. We could talk about God, who started Tuskegee? Now his name is escaping me. But my point is, he was a huge sexist, right? And so my thing is that anytime we start canonizing anybody, we're in trouble. And we're in trouble because you have to provide a measured approach to anybody. If you say, oh, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was horrible for Black people because of this immunity piece. Well, the immunity piece, and when the case was then decided in 93, had far different implications. We're not talking about the fact that we had a crime bill that came in 96 that Black people supported, you know, greatly because of the stuff and the crime that was happening in our communities. We Black folks are not all anti-police, right? And so what I'm saying to you is that Black folks are not a monolith, that there's several layers to this, and the problem with RGB is the canonization of any person is then problematic.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nelson. First, let me introduce you as well, too. You just jumped in. This is Dr.
Sis is bad. Sis bad.
Okay. This is Dr. Sharice Nelson. She's DMV based. Where do you teach at again, Dr. Nelson, if you want to say that?
No, I'm not DMV based.
You're not?
I'm in Baton Rouge.
Oh, my bad. I thought you were up in the DMV.
No,
okay.
So I went to Howard University in the DMV. So I'm originally from Oakland, California. I grew up in Oakland, California, and I had to go East Oakland on my students this week. I had to let them know, like, the hood is still here. It's real. And so I'm from East Oakland, California. I went to school for undergrad in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So I'm very familiar with the South. And then I moved to DC.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Tuscaloosa, Alabama. What school you went to? Stillman?
I did go to Stillman.
So did I.
Wow, that's crazy. When?
I only went one semester because I left FAMU to transfer, and then I went back to FAMU, but I went in 03.
That's crazy. Yeah, so I went to Stillman College in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and then I moved to DC, and I tell people all the time that I did Obama's 8 years with him. I went to the University of the District of Columbia for my master's degree, and then I got my PhD at the Howard University, and now I'm at Southern University down here in Baton Rouge teaching in political science department.
All right, that's what's up. So the Howard connection is where I've got the DMV mixed up with. So you outnumbered tonight because you got two rattlers on the line with you, me and Stacy.
We're strike again.
All right. But so also another thing that we had in the current events was, of course, the Breonna Taylor case. And I'm glad you're on, Dr. Nelson, too, because last time you were on, we briefly showed the billboard for Breonna Taylor, and you got very emotional because, I mean, rightfully so. You're probably looking at your reflection. You know what I'm saying? Back at you, right? And I also wanted to bring Stacy on because I know that she will have a lot to say. This we've done a little bit of work together down there in Orlando when I was going off on them cops. But Stacy, let's talk about this. Is no laughing matter. This is the seriousness of it. Y'all go ahead. Whichever one of y'all are gonna.
So I would like to start, and I would like to start with this. I do not feel that Black men are getting enough credit for protecting her, and for me, that's a huge problem because it's a huge problem for a number of reasons. It's first a problem because there's not that many Black men out here in my purview that are protecting us. So anytime a Black man steps up to protect a Black woman, they need to be celebrated. And it wasn't one in this case, it was two of them. Because what people are confusing about the story is the boyfriend that she was laying in the bed with was not the person participating in criminal activity. And people are confusing the situation. And every time I hear somebody say, well, she shouldn't have been laying up with a drug dealer, she wasn't. He was gone. He wasn't in there. It wasn't him. Okay, so that's the first thing. And the first thing he was doing was protecting her underneath the castle doctrine that is the law that allows you to protect your castle with a weapon. So that's the first thing is that that black man that was laying next to her tried to protect her. And secondly, the ex-boyfriend who they then tried to get to lie on her, protect her, and said, no, I'll do my time, versus lying on this black woman who's not here to defend herself. Right. And I know this may be controversial, but him not doing that also then allowed for her family to get paid $12 million. So let's be clear on that too, because if he would have said, yeah, I'll take it, then it would have been hard for Ben Crump and them to get $12 million. The last thing I want to say on it, and I talked to Dr. Monago about this, and he didn't believe me. I said, you think that they're going to get this 12 million and be quiet? They're not going to get this 12 million and be quiet. And that's the next thing that I want to point out here is that they had a press conference and they want the transcripts. And so my thing is that if this is the way the system is going to be set up, this is how we have to play. We knew what was coming down, right? We knew once first off, when they announced the settlement amount, they don't usually announce settlement amounts. You announce a settlement amount to try to get us to be okay with the fact that everything went down. And we wouldn't even have got that had it not been for celebrities and everybody else causing attention to the matter. Because the boyfriend who was laying in the bed with her was had charges for attempted murder of a cop. So we wouldn't even have got this. So I that's the thing that I really want to put out there is that we need to be celebrating these black men for protecting this black woman while she was alive and when she was in her grave.
Thank you. That's very important. Stacey?
She done said it all. I mean, like, for real, because she's right. Black men don't protect us. That's why I'm saying I don't care if they put something out there for you. You don't have to take it. You need to protect us. But those two black men did it. And not only did they protect those women, they, like she said, they made sure to the grave they protected her. And they're not commended by us black women. They're not commended by you black men, because that's something that you need to, recognize. There was a G code between her and her ex-boyfriend. Here it is. A man that used to live in her home is no longer there, knowing she got a new boyfriend and still protected her. That is a beautiful thing that should have been outcast as well, to show that black men ain't always mad when you with their ex and all that other stuff, because that is very important. What else is important is the fact that I know a lot of people say they don't want to vote, but guys, it's not the police per se. Yes, it is the police technically, because they are the ones that's killing the people. Okay, they are. All right. So I'm not going to say it's not them, but how do they keep getting off? I kept asking myself for 7 years. How, since Trayvon Martin, how are they getting off? Because of the law that's protecting them. And now who is creating that law? Oh, that state representative that you didn't want to vote for. Oh, the House of Representatives that you didn't want to vote for. Oh, the congressman that you didn't go out and vote for during the midterms. They're the lawmakers. That is the legislative branch. You guys don't understand. There's 3 branches of government: the daggone judicial branch, legislative branch, and the executive. And the legislative branch is the one right now that can change any law, just like they did when Ursula Sunshine. I remember having to watch that video in elementary school when that man beat that little girl and they made that a law immediately. Just like when Obama made the Blue Lives Matter law immediately, they could have made a Black Lives Matter law. I wrote a bill. I gave it to Bruce Anton, state representative, District 46 in Orlando. He did nothing with it. I gave it to the new state representative, Travaris McCurdy. Hopefully he does something with it, where at least one of my things, I'm not going to give all 3 of my points, but one of my points is police officers need liability insurance. Here I am, I'm a teacher. I get cussed out by elementary kids. Matter of fact, the other day I got told F you by a first grader. Guess what? I couldn't swell up at that first grader. I couldn't yell at that first grader. I had to remain calm and calm down the situation with social emotional learning. And if I got to do that, okay, and risk myself every day, just like you're risking yourself, because I work at a Title I school, then you need to learn how to do that. You're the one that's trained. You're the ones with the guns. So, but how are they going to abide by it is the lawmakers. We have to make sure we are putting people in a law, where we're putting people there where they can represent us, because the falsifying thing that black people didn't run for Congress. Yes, they did. There were so many black people in Congress in the 1800s, especially after slavery. In Kentucky, they wound up wiping out a whole history when it was like almost 15 of them. You know what I'm saying? And the only reason why they got it because they had land. See, I don't need you. If I got my own, that's why I appreciate the people in Georgia. Guys, we got to start buying land next to each other and unincorporated land. Then we can build our own cities, have our own police department. You know, the guy next door, our neighbor, he's now the mayor. The guy across the street, he's now the sheriff. And that's how Windermere did it in Orlando. They used to be unincorporated Orange County. They said, we don't want Orange County patrolling us no more. They went and incorporated their city, and now their city and their friends run each other, and nobody can come in it. And that's what we got to start doing, as well as voting. So when we get our land and our power, we don't have to settle for what happened to Breonna. We don't have to settle what happened to Trayvon. We don't have to settle for what happened to Tamir Rice. We don't have to settle for what happened to all these innocent Black African Americans, or whatever they want to be called, or whatever they call us this census. We don't need to settle for that, but we got to take our power back, guys. Like we keep saying the white man, I'm tired of blaming him. We known his plan since 1619. So now what?
So
Now
with
Okay,
that
what?
being,
I would like to.
with that being said, though, I think there's some key points that Stacey's making. One of the points that I think that she's making that's important is the importance of voting. Right, the Atlanta strippers have put out a commercial
A mess.
taking they behind about telling you Negroes to vote.
And it's insulting too, and it's disgusting, and it's supposedly supposed to be targeted towards black men, and it definitely shows black men what the Democrats think of us.
But
However,
it's not the Democrats. The Democrats didn't pay for that ad. These black women who were strippers paid for that ad. You can disagree with how they went about doing it, but wait a minute. They took power inside of themselves. We don't all have to agree about the ad, right? And I don't necessarily say that it's a good ad. I'm saying that black women in their station and their position took hold of their own set of power, bought a ad, and then circulated. Now,
Dr. Nelson, I don't know about that. I'm looking at it right now.
Power to do that. Go ahead.
I'm looking that up right now because, to my knowledge, I don't know about them. You saying the same sisters that was in that video are the ones who paid for that?
No, there was a black sister that then paid for that. There was a black sister that paid for the ad.
There was one black woman.
Yeah, it was one black woman who paid for it, and and not only that, the strippers were the ones who came together because they needed to have basically a super PAC and other pieces to then make the political ad that they
Super PAC,
Super PAC, and who and okay, so I don't want to get caught up on that because the thing about it is,
but what I'm saying, my point to you is that they did not have the documents or the incorporation necessary. We don't got to get into super PACs or whatever they were, but they did not. There's
a reason a certain super PAC, and before we get into which super PAC it was, of course, a lot of people don't have the money. That's why they go to the Democrats, and the Democrats or Democratic leaning liberal super PACs will fund them to push a certain agenda.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I gotta cut y'all off of that. I
really wanted to address.
Wait, hold on. I'm so sick of it. Left ring, white ring, it's all part of the same bird. It could have been the Republicans that paid for that. We
can all sing together, but we can't all talk together.
I know, but we don't know who paid for that.
I wanted to address the fact that you said black men don't protect black women. One, there is a lot of propaganda when it comes to that. And of course, none black men nor black women control the press. And a lot of times we can go by our personal experiences, but then even that doesn't give us the full story. And as far as them being highlighted, we've highlighted the brother who Sister Breonna Taylor's boyfriend. We've highlighted that brother, and we've also highlighted another brother up in upstate New York, I believe. No, it was in the city, just outside the city, where his sister was being harassed in her neighborhood. He saw it on the news, picked up, camped outside her house, and it was just him for days until other people joined him. But I'm just giving you these stories to just let you know that there is a narrative that counters that, and that's why we do this broadcast, because we do want to bring that narrative. Now, when it comes back to Breonna, and the idea of voting, I want to point out that the prosecutor who offered Breonna's ex-boyfriend that deal to lie on Breonna, he was a Democrat. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, and his wife is white, and she could be a Republican. What's your
No,
point?
I'm not talking about Daniel.
I'm just saying.
I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about they're two different people. Daniel, whoever is the attorney general, the prosecutor who offered that deal to that brother was a Democrat. That was a prosecutor who offered him that. Now my point in saying that is I have to be able to.
Kashama, could you give us his name? Could you give us
something wine? Something wine.
Yeah.
Turning wine something wine. But my point in that is I can't see the answer as being this whole just blindly voting. I see the answer as us coming together under Black agendas and pushing that and making sure that we hold any candidate or party that wants our vote accountable to that before they get our votes.
I
and
agree
not with the towing the party line because it doesn't serve us.
But I agree. But you're more so talking about national. There's a lot of elections that I voted for Republicans, okay, because they're local and they're nonpartisan. Guys, national elections does not affect you the way that local and state elections affect you and affect you daily. And I'm so sick. One thing I hate about African Americans is we will sit here and talk about the Democrats all goddamn day and not open our mouth about racist Republicans. Not once. We won't say nothing about them. We won't say nothing to them. Let the Democrats, who's supposed to be for us, all parties are supposed to be for the people because that's America. Second of all, one thing I love about the Republicans.
That's a myth.
I said they're supposed to be. It's not a myth. That's the truth. Now, is it? No, but they're supposed to be. That's the truth.
No,
I wouldn't even say they're supposed to. Thank you, Dr.
Charles Diggs, the founder of the Congressional Black Caucus, said that Black people don't have parties. They have permanent interest. Black people don't have parties.
We had the Republican Party. We were running the Republican Party at once.
No. But
we weren't running them.
Is that Black people are not necessarily party affiliated, and we know that Black people are not necessarily party affiliated because Black people make the decision all the time to not vote, and by not voting, you're then voting against your party. So to this idea that we are all just hook, line, and sinker with the Democrats is not politically the truth.
I don't believe that. The only reason
we have permanent interest. I'm agreeing with you. We don't have parties.
The only reason why I'm a Democrat. The only reason why I'm a Democrat in the state of Florida, because in my state, in order for you to vote in primaries, you have to be, and who is ever running. See, that's another thing. I wanted Bernie Sanders, but a lot of people don't understand policy. So here you are, you're independent. You're not a part of the party. Well, Bernie was not going to be on your ballot for the primaries. And these are the things like we got to understand. So that's the only reason why I'm a registered Democrat. I do not vote Democrat all the time. I will not vote Democrat all the time. I used to be a precinct chair committee woman for the Democratic Party, and I seen what I seen, but that happens in all parties, which is why if you're saying that no party has our interest, then what are we going to do for us instead of continue to say, well, the Democrats, well, we know that. You said that last show, the show before last. So now that we know that the Democrats are not going to do nothing for us, what are we going to do for us?
Okay, so I think Black people, we have been torn a party line. We've done that consistently for decades. Ever since JFK on into LBJ, that shift from Black people voting Republican for those who could vote to voting Democrat, it built up. And the only reason why a lot of Black people didn't vote, it wasn't because they were voting against their party. It was not voting out of apathy or even availability sometimes, or you know what I'm saying. But the Black people who voted,
but when y'all do that,
wait, let me finish this because this is true. The Black people who have voted overwhelmingly Democrat. Obama can testify to that right now because we voted more. The numbers were higher for him than any other candidate, but it's always been Democrat ever since we pretty much had the whole collective right to vote. So that's simply not true that we go to our interests and not party based. And anybody that's part of the Democratic the Black Democratic Caucus, what you call that? The Democratic Black Caucus, CBC, Congressional Black Caucus, is that where that quote came from? Because they don't Black people's interests. All they do is sit up and talk about DACA all day.
I disagree totally. I've written an entire book about that, and the book will be out next year.
Thank you.
I encourage everybody to go out and get it once it comes out. It'll be out on SUNY Press. It's called the Congressional Black Caucus. The fight for equality, the fight for equality for 50 years. Charles Diggs said this. He said that Black people do not have parties, we have permanent interests. And what I mean by that is, since we have a set of permanent interests, we have to, in a two-party system, then align with someone who's going to represent more of our interests than not, which is to Stacey's point. Stacey is saying that I then vote for who represents my interests. Because she's in what's called a closed party state, she has to then choose one of the two parties, because she's in Florida, which is a closed party state, which means when it's time to vote in the primaries, you have to then decide what party you're going to then register for, because then you cannot vote in the primaries if you're not registered. Every state is not like that. Every state is not comprised as a closed party state. Some states are open party states. So my point about Charles Diggs and what I was saying is that Black people have aligned themselves with the Democratic Party, not because they love being Democrats. They've aligned themselves there because their interests lie there, and that's where they're able then to get more things out of. We have seen this to be the case in other places. And the reason that I say this is, if you go back then to Stacey's point about local elections, in places where there are at the local level or at the state level, party affiliation is taken away, what you will find is that Black people vote their interest. This idea that Black people overwhelmingly vote Democrat, that's really only Black women that do that.
We need numbers, sis. We need numbers, and we need to know where this is happening.
Let me finish, because I'll let you finish.
No, y'all barely let me finish. That's a myth too. I need numbers when you're talking about Black people not overwhelmingly voting Democrat on the state.
Okay, hold on, real quick. If you really want any numbers, one thing about elections, I grew up as a politician's daughter. Okay, my mother's getting ready to retire for almost 20 years on the board and over probably 30 years, 50 some odd years in education and politics. Baby, every question that you ask right now is at your supervisor of elections office. You can get it by the demographic on how they vote. You can get it by who's
So
you can get super.
I'm not going to the supervisor of elections. I'm going to this doctor who is fully like, you know what I'm saying, like she's.
And this Dr. Kashama gets her numbers from the supervisor of elections.
What you mentioned. Dude, what's about to say?
I've been quiet this time because I've been wanting to really absorb what women have to say on this particular issue and make space for it. Trying to make sure that dynamic is there where you're not over talking. But here's my point. One, I want to say thank you for mentioning the Black man who protected Breonna in that incident. But my concern was that it became not about Breonna as we continue forth. And with that in mind, when we talk about the issue of voting, I believe that we have not really tackled the fact. I feel like we're doing this argument amongst each other when the reality is that, at least in the communities that I'm familiar with and the people that I network with, politics is not accurately taught to our youth and to our Black families and parents. And so you bringing up things about that's not something that the regular everyday Black person just knows. It's not something that they know. And that's not a fault necessarily of them by themselves, because of course we are supposed to be activating in this. But this culture doesn't provide the context for you to be actively engaged in your protection and your love and yourself as a Black person on holistic health, let alone politics and law, right? So that is, I think, one of the more contention points that we should be focusing on in our dialogues about this particular subject. But I'm saying that time is winding down. We do have another huge topic to get to.
So I just want to comment on what you're saying about civic education, because I see it every day. Right? Like, I had to go East Oakland on my students at Southern because of their lack of civic understanding. And not only because of their lack of it, but because there is no appetite for it. Right? If a rapper not saying it, they don't want to hear it. So I get Kashama's point about the dancing women or whatever, but we have gotten to a place in our culture where it's consumption based. And if we can't keep the gates of our communities more safely drawn so that we can have these types of discussions and draw from one another. We're not getting the civic education, right? These students don't know where to go. The education systems are not teaching them these things. And that's why I think it's important. And I think that this is the bedrock for Brianna. And the reason it's the bedrock for Brianna is because Daniel Cameron has to, the only way he keeps his job as a assistant district attorney inside of the state of Kentucky is when people vote for him. So that's to me why this is the foundation of what we're talking about when it comes to Brianna, is because he decided what was going to go before that grand jury. He decided how the facts are going to be laid out. He decided what even charges were going to be brought up for those officers, all based upon somebody that Black and white people in the state of Kentucky voted for, and black folks.
Hold on, wait, or did not vote for.
This man.
Okay, so we have
So
to.
I have
certain things, and so that to me why it's the bedrock for Brianna.
We have to move on, y'all. We have to move on and talk about these
but this
Decepticons.
moment will happen as we begin to transition. And
by the way, Black people make up 8.3% of Kentucky. Y'all keep talking about voting, but go ahead, dude.
Right. So it was mentioned earlier, I believe by you, Dr. Nelson, that Black women overwhelmingly have voted Democrat when we look at the numbers and statistics. And when we look at things
and guess
like
what?
Stripper,
and white people have always.
Sis, thank you so much. You caught it. As we look at that, and we're looking at things like the stripper video, and which is clearly marketed specifically to apparently heterosexual black men.
And if we say it's Black men,
and recognizing that in this particular political climate, it seems that Black men are leaning towards more Republican voting, and that is idea of voting along one's interests. I'm not even sure if we're looking at the real study. I'm not even sure that Black men are quote unquote voting in their interests. We're talking about a group of individuals who are the target for silencing when it comes to voting infringement rights. When we're talking about the leagues of Black men going to jail and prison, when we talk about how often Black men are left out of the conversation for voting rights. And so we're talking about that particular group dynamic. And in addition, that stripping video, and it proves what Black women happen to think of us on far as that particular sector, because that is insulting as hell. Like, you can't say and mimic someone's speech pattern when not else. We're not even advertising to the Black men who actively vote and who are in politics and who are
looking at politics.
But what's so funny?
Holding these
yes,
people
they are
throughout social media.
No, they not. Y'all can't think of Black men. Y'all tripping.
So I'm not.
Listen. Once again, that's why you got to know numbers. The Black men that truly vote are the ones that got the money. They're in the CEO. They're hanging around their white counterparts. They want to belong. Okay, well, they want to go to those. I'm not saying you all. Once again, you got to look at the demographic. Go to the supervisor of election office. You can just Google it. They break it down by money, who votes. You know what I'm saying? What area they live in.
All right. Okay. Wait. Oh, time out. Stacey, time out, Duke. Time out.
But I'm just saying, y'all, porn is the number one thing Googled. Porn is the number one thing Googled. Let's not act like people don't like behind shaking now. Come on.
So listen, y'all, check this out. I propose something. I propose that we go into overtime, and instead of ending at 8:30, let's end at 9:00. So that we can continue to discuss this up until 8:05, 8:10. Get it out of our system. Stacey, I know you got a little tribe that you have to take care of. If you have to go take a break off the camera and come back, do that. Just make sure you're listening to us. All right. And action, I guess. Y'all
action.
Well, but wait. First, let me say this though. I know we're all passionate and it's all in love. Like both I've developed a relationship with Dr. Nelson. I met Stacey back in 2005, 2006, and Duke is all love with him too. So we're gonna definitely be very passionate, but in the interest of the audience, so that they can get a clear understanding of what we're saying. Let's try not to talk over each other, y'all. All right.
Fair. I guess I want to move along to really our Decepticons.
I don't think we're trying to talk over each other. I think it's just lagging because right now when I start talking, your little screen did the little thingamajiggy. So sometimes when there's a dead airspace, you
I got you.
talk and then so I don't really think nobody was cutting each other up. Just my humble opinion.
Got you. But Duke, though,
Except
let's
that one
first,
time.
before we get on the Decepticons, because there's some things that do have to be addressed. Let's hold up though, because we can't just go by conjecture and talk about, oh well, the black men who vote, they're the type to do this, they're the type to do that. No, 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 no. Sis, we got numbers, we got age groups, we got income range, we got education levels, right? And so if we're gonna talk about who votes among black men, let's first get this out the way. The majority of black men who vote Democrat. All right. And Sister China Dickinson in the chat mentioned that only 59.9% of black people voted in 2016. Yeah, because that was right on the heels of after having put a black man in office twice and have him pretty much pay us dust after watching black men and women get killed and dragged out of their cars and all that on camera over week after week and do nothing other than sign a law to protect the police. Now, so if that's the apathy that I
I
talk,
disagree with that. I just want to
no,
put
let's
out there.
go.
I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take that as I don't want to steer us too far off of our topic, but I don't agree with that.
We're
Again,
talking about Breonna Taylor and
Obama
y'all
made it.
mentioned voting, so we're not off topic. You right on topic, sis. Stay on it. Please
Okay,
give it
so
to us.
Obama made, and I've said this several times on this show and other places. Obama made a strategic decision, and we don't have to like the decision, but to say he's done nothing for black people, I think it's a mischaracterization of what he did or what he decided to do. Obama was a constitutionalist. He was a constitutional scholar, and so he made the decision to try to move the structure, right? And so if we think about, and when we talk about the structure, one of the biggest reasons we are at the place that we are at right now with being able to make the police do what we're doing as far as even getting AGs to come in and swoop in and take cases is because of what happened in Ferguson, is because of what Eric Holder did inside of the Department of Justice with the Ferguson report that laid a foundation then for the AG to come in and swoop in and then do an oversight. Before, and this is why you have to understand the structure. Before, that was seen as an infringement on states' rights. And so what we have to understand is, I'm not saying that Obama did all the things that we wanted him to do, but we cannot say that he left us with dust, because he left us with a foundation that then allows us to argue in the way that we're doing right now and getting these cases pulled to light. None of these things were happening before. None of these things were even possible then before that Ferguson ruling. And let's also remember the 10 commandments that then got produced by the Department of Justice that then started snatching funding at the state and local level for police forces that were not complying. So again, Obama made the decision to move the structure, and he affected the structure mightily because he stopped money from flowing to these police departments that were then responsible for our brutality.
Okay, so when you say
Can't argue
constitutionalist,
with facts.
you're basically saying a centrist, because if I'm not mistaken, the Constitution was written to compromise and help balance the idea of states' rights and a central government. So this idea of being a constitutionalist, I think it's just something that people kind of throw out to describe
So
certain
let me,
people.
so,
Well,
yeah,
what
but
are you
let me,
meaning,
no,
a
no, no. Let me be
centrist or
very
what?
clear. No. Let me be very clear what I mean by a constitutionalist. So,
Yeah.
first off, the Constitution was not a compromise. The Bill of Rights was a compromise to the Constitution, because the Constitution was a strong central government, and the Bill of Rights is the compromise. The Bill of Rights was created by the Anti-Federalists. That was then the compromise to the Constitution. So when we say a constitutionalist, it doesn't mean a centrist. A constitutionalist means they believe in a strong central government. And when I say that Obama was a constitutionalist, what I mean is from a scholarly perspective. And so he understood very deeply how the structure worked. So what he decided to do was affect the local, not then by infringing upon states' rights, which would then get pushback from all of the states. He decided to then affect the system from a central government perspective that would then remove funding, right? And so you can agree or disagree with that premise. But what he did was he made, what I mean by constitutionalist, he deeply understood how the compromise between denying states' rights and the federal government was established. And so what he did was, because I am the authority in this, I'm going to start snatching money. I'm going to start setting precedents so that then when things rise up at the local level, I may not be able to directly affect it, but I'm going to lay a foundation for where you cannot go. And so that's what I'm saying to you, in that the Ferguson report lays a foundation. The policing 10 commandments lays a foundation. And if you don't meet those things, then your funding gets pulled away from you.
Okay, so let me say to that. One, the problem is black people didn't compromise when it came to putting Barack Obama in office. And there was no reason he had to compromise within his second term. He had executive orders to use at his whim, and he used them how he saw fit. He did not compromise when it came to the protections of other groups. And he also used those same principles of strong central government to strengthen the so-called rights and leverage of police officers against the people. And that foundation you're talking about that gives us the ability to argue today, I'm tired of arguing. I'm tired of us talking about another sister or brother has been killed, and now we got to go through, with this law and that law, blah, 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 blah. The reason, and I thank you for educating me on that thing about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, because it's been a while since I was in that 8th grade civics class. You feel me? Because after all, I'm not a constitutionalist, because I look at the white man and his laws and see lies in him and everything that they've ever said or promised or anything. So I'm about moving forward on a black agenda. And that's not always represented in this whole, in how white people tend to do things. And the watershed progress that we've seen now is we've only seen it because things have started to burn. Things started to burn like they burned in the 60s, and that's why we saw so many drastic acts and progress right after that, right on the heel of that. So I mean, it is what it is. Obama could have did more for his people, the people, supposedly his people. We're gonna get into them Decepticons and doppelgangers and everything else out here later, but black people didn't compromise with putting him in. Black people put that man in at 90+%. And you want to talk about how only 59.9% people voted in 2016? It was quite the opposite. More black people voted forever, and they showed up for a black man, and he showed up with compromises for us in return. Take it, Duke.
I want to say that because I also saw in the comments someone quoting the numbers about, I think it was 13% of black men who voted for Trump in this previous election. And I think that what people often forget about is actually contextualizing black male narrative and politics in this country. Because who Trump was going against at that time was Hillary Clinton, who supported the super predator law, which desperately impacted the lives of black men, particularly, and black women by
Don't call it the super predator law, do call it what it is. It was called the crime bill, and that's what it was. Let's be fair.
We'll call it Biden's bill. That's more accurate.
No. Let's just be fair to the. She supported a bill that her husband signed.
Be fair to who? Hillary Clinton. Was she ever fair to Africans? Was she fair to Africa? Continue, Duke.
No. Wait a minute.
So,
just to be fair, she was the wife at the time. She was the wife of the president with a crime bill that was supported by black people as well. So she made a super predator comment.
I'm not going to be fair to that demon. I don't think we got to be fair to her. She ain't fair to her.
But beyond that, because it's not as if like Trump has some fucking has some record of being pro-black and for black people and black lives. But we're talking about a history of black men being the ones who are routinely killed with cameras and all this vileness as we vote Democrat consistently, and there being absolutely no change or recognition coming from that. And so therefore it is the darn if you do, darn if you don't component when it comes to this. And again, I told you, as I stated before, there is a lack of passing down of education and political involvement in our communities. And because there's a whole new dynamic in which we talked about how the media has, which I believe is the media manipulating various different traumas in the black community, there's this dynamic now where black men and black women don't even talk to each other about anything, let alone politics, right? So we're not engaging on how do we actually come together and be a benefit for each other. But at the end of the day, I will stress, no matter how you feel about it, as long as we have a continued list because we can talk about the numbers all day about Black death and who is most often the ones dying unjustly in this country, and we have a continued list of that happening with absolutely no change as we vote Democrat, then yeah, Black men are just falling out of the wayside and don't care what it is at this point. It's just like, well, what's the next best thing that I can get? Is it money? Can I get money? Because that's the next best thing at this point. And I just feel like we lose that component as we talk about the livelihood and the mental health of a group of individuals who are consistently killed in the streets and told they aren't shit at the same time by their Black peers. So we have to work on that as a community.
So Stacey was
well,
about to
hold
say
on, because I want to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had raised my hand a long time ago before he switched over because I want to get back to Obama. Because I didn't want to be rude and cut people off, y'all. So I was sorry. That's just me. Raise your hand. Okay, I do that all day, so you gotta forgive me. I read some things, and I was the one like Obama didn't do nothing for Black people. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. At the same time, Black people didn't do nothing for Obama in 2010. Y'all didn't go back and vote in the House, so the Democrats could run it. So he could do something for you and pass something. Okay, you guys keep forgetting you can't pass something if you got a whole group of other people in the House rejecting everything you give. So even if he wanted to say, give me reparations, they would have rejected it. And that would have ended our chance to ever try to get reparations in the future. Come on, guys, he's a constitutionalist. So I'm glad
Okay.
she said that because hold on, because there's a peace treaty of 1866 that allowed the Native Americans to get what they got. He told y'all, him and Michelle told you Negroes to claim a nationality. Well, on my census, I put that I was a Moor because Moor is a nationality. African American is not a
When
nationality.
did they tell us
Black
to
is
do
not a
that, Stacey?
nationality. Color, I am talking. You're cutting me off. Give me
I'm
the same rules of
I'm
respect
asking
that
a
you asked.
question. That's all.
You all have not claimed a nationality. And until you claim, okay, but hold on, I wasn't finished. Until you claim a nationality, one thing about America, they go by that Constitution. I don't care how you feel. I don't care what you can prove. If it ain't that Constitution, they don't care. There is something for us in that Constitution, which is the Peace Treaty of 1866. But we're African American, we're colored, we're Negroes, we're everything but what the heck that Peace Treaty is telling us to be, which is he spoke at the Moore Convention. So did Michelle spoke at the Moore Convention and told you African Americans to be Moors. And then you go, he did nothing for us. He constitutionalized you to be a Moor. So you can claim those reparations. So you can claim those things. So that's why on my census, I put me and my children are Moors. Okay? We are
Thank
Black,
you,
but we are
Stacey.
Moors.
No, I just wanted to get it across to you. When I wasn't trying to interrupt you, I asked you like when they said that so that you could be clear for the people who's watching. Like we don't just say stuff.
I was trying to.
Yeah.
It was okay. How I found out, and we had to be like 2016, 17. And it was because it was a guy at my job when I used to work at this resort. It was a guy at my job it was weird. He sold his social security number because his social security number is owned by you, which is why every time you fill out your state stuff or everything is always capitalized because you and your social security number is a company and it is sold every time you get a birth certificate and a social security number, it is sold to another country. And so what he did was he wound up selling his social security back. So and he claimed some type of thing where he could free roam. You know what I'm saying? And he uses his self and he got an EIN number to work
In the interest
instead
of
of using
time,
his social
Stacey.
security. So
Wait, in the interest of
but
time, Stacey, because people can look into that.
just go look up Michelle Obama.
Right. Speaks to the Moore Convention.
Just go look up the Moore Convention. Yeah, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, because I remember the picture. They were standing, and the picture was so vivid. They were standing behind red, black, and green flags. It had all the different stars and everything, and she was standing up there talking.
Okay, so I keep saying Dr. Nelson like saying something, but your mic is muted, Dr. Nelson. I think you need to unmute yourself. And also, I want to wait. There's a comment. Wait, there's comments. Let's do some housekeeping. There's comments. China Dickerson is very active. So and when people say stuff, I want them, I want like us to see that that people that they're saying it, and I want us to be able to kind of unpack what they're saying. She said something about the men keep telling us about their feelings and refuse to speak on facts, like Dr. Sharice. I just want to say I don't remember saying nothing about how I feel. I remember speaking on the facts of executive orders and what Obama did and didn't do. Everything are facts. So, and I don't remember Duke ever saying anything about his feelings either. And so I think that's why we need to, like, let's stick to facts. If we say we're gonna stick to facts, let's
Yeah,
stick to
but
facts.
Kashama, so to your point about executive orders, I think executive orders are fair, right? I think executive orders are definitely fair, and analyzing executive orders. But again, you have to understand the the overarching structure. When we look at executive orders and his use of executive orders, he was being hit from every side. Like, again, I'm not here to be an Obama defender. I'm saying that we have to look at the broader structure in which he was inside of. And so,
But guess what, though? You say he was hit from every side with some of his executive orders. You think LGBT people care about who was criticizing him when
but
he
the LGBT stuff did not come from Obama's desk. That came from the Supreme Court. That came from the Supreme Court ruling about then marriage equality. That did not come from Obama's desk. What Obama did was he then rescinded an executive order. He rescinded the don't ask, don't tell policy. That's what he did for.
Well, what do you thought? I mean, what you thought I was talking about?
Wait a minute. Let me finish. So when we have to be very clear, and I'm not saying that he couldn't have used executive orders, but you have to remember that executive orders expire as soon as he leaves office. Executive orders are not law. Executive orders are then the translation then of a law that's on the books. And what often happens with executive orders is they're taking them before the Supreme Court. If you know that the Supreme Court is, because that's the only body that can then decide if the executive order is then in concert then with the law that's been passed, right? Or
all right,
if it's not constitutional. Let me finish.
I know. I got my producer. We got our producer telling us we definitely keeping time with us, and we definitely have to move on to
so
this other topic.
let me just lay this out.
Dr. Nelson, you know this ain't your last time coming on here, dog. You got so much more.
Let me just say this really quickly.
Give us.
The executive orders, and I don't disagree that he could have used them, but we have to take into consideration that if he would have used them, that they wouldn't have had lasting effects, and that the Supreme Court would have erased any executive order that he put for Black people because he did not have the court. He had a 5-4 court, and he was not going to win that battle. So why expend executive orders that are going to expire at the end of his term and then be pushed back from the Supreme Court and then lose legitimacy? That's
Dr. Nelson, thank you, because you're talking about you're not an Obama defender. Let's get on these Decepticons. You're gonna make me call you up one day, just me and you.
That is so funny to me, Decepticon.
So it's no secret at this point that I don't know why, because when we got this much infight, and I don't know why anybody want to be us, but it's no secret.
Look at all this we got going on.
It's no secret at this point that we have interested parties, mostly of the white woman variety, who are very interested in not only taking up space in Black movements, but also articulating and dictating how Black movements should organize and how they should go forth. And some of them use it for personal gains. I know there's a story not too long ago about someone who just did it just to get into college. But I wonder, have you all heard about, besides Rachel Dolezal, have you heard about the 2 or 3 other stories that happened within the past month?
So, Duke, let me say something to this, because I'm in academia.
Mm-hmm.
And these is my peoples, right? Like this is one of the biggest reasons I want to hop on tonight, is because what we have to understand is that the academia, the collegiate setting, at predominantly white institutions, is the last breeding ground for white supremacy. And because it's the last breeding ground for white supremacy, and they have to quote unquote appear to be showing a balanced perspective, they invite these type of doppelgangers to join faculties at the then behest of me showing up, because they don't want me to show up, right? Y'all, you know, me and Kashama can go back and forth about how Black I am, but when I step up to them, they know I'm blackety black, and they don't want me there. Okay, and so this for me is extremely frustrating because my scholarship is daily, it is at a daily intersection being questioned. The scholarship of other Black women that look like me is daily being questioned, while white women posing to be us get to walk in, get grants, get get grant funding, get paid more, get preferential treatment as far as teaching inside of these departments, all of it. So for me, this is a height of contention, right? This gets me so pissed off because I've been ran off of white campuses because of the racial dolezars, because of these white women that are posing themselves as Black because they don't want to deal with the sister with the cornrows in her head.
Mm-hmm. So something that I noticed, particularly in this conversation, at least with the sister, and I'm gonna get the name in a moment, but there was a sister who wrote in on Medium about her years of pretending to be Black. The conversation that came out of that when it was revealed about her lineage is that how often supposedly Black men silenced Black women or didn't listen to Black women when they were in question about this woman's ethnicity, and how often this woman was given space on Black platforms. So at this particular instance, I remember there was the Son of Baldwin page, and that caused a lot of the rift there. Now I noticed, because mind you, I don't, I happen to follow the page. I don't agree with everything he says. I actually had a disagreement with him many years ago, but I found it interesting that in that particular conversation, he was trying to express that it was also Black women who were the friends of this particular Decepticon, and he didn't know who to listen to, whether to listen to the Black women who were calling out this woman, or listen to the Black women who were like, you should not question this woman because it's a traumatic trigger and whatnot else. And for me, I believe all of this comes down to a very, very simple issue, which is the issue of colorism in our community and the issue of how we have not dealt with how internalized racism impacts how we view and see each other around beauty lines, whatever else, and of course all the stereotypes that come with darker skin tones, particularly amongst Black women, about being loud and too aggressive and hard to deal with, and all these other stereotypes. With that being said, I think that it's an easy to solve fix far as gatekeeping Blackness, but we have so many individuals invested in saying that we should not be questioning the ethnicity of someone who walks down the street. Like, are you Black? Can you give me can you tell me who your parents are? Can you tell me where your birth certificate is? That's considered too traumatizing in our communities to deal with, and yet at the same time we have this conundrum where these people are stealing resources in educational
but I don't. But I think
opportunities.
I think we need to be very clear about the difference between pigmentocracy and colorism, right? So pigmentocracy is the entire system that is established where we say that whiter is greater regardless of ethnicity, right? Pigmentocracy is just about the plain color of our skin. And I'm gonna tell you right now that if you go back and look at my baby pictures are not going to make me Black. Because you're going to question my Blackness if you go look back at my baby pictures. I made a point in my life because of you Black folks that dragged me to stay in the sun as much as possible so I could get darker because I was so light, right? So I guess I want to be very clear that the gatekeeping is easy if we identify what pigmentocracy is versus what colorism is, right? Colorism is then the weaponizing of pigmentocracy inside of our communities. And if we start participating in colorism, then it's no problem then to call out then Black folks from a pigmentocracal perspective if we stop weaponizing colorism, right? But we weaponize colorism, and once we weaponize colorism, then we give life to the pigmentocracy that exists.
So how do you think we're supposed to solve for instance, that Decepticon who went on to write articles speaking on the behalf of Black women? How do we solve for this particular Decepticon? What do you think should have been the practices that should have been in place to prevent her from taking up space?
the practice would have been the practices are clear, right? So if that woman was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, right? That's where she was. If we back up to Jessica Krug, who was on your flyer, right? Is the idea the reason she passed so long at GW is because it ain't enough real black women there. Right? There wasn't enough black people at GW to then even question. In the Madison case, in the University of Wisconsin Madison case, she co-opted black women to then empathize with her around trauma. It wasn't that there wasn't black women calling her out. There were black women calling her out. It was that she had co-opted a few of us around trauma. And that's my point about weaponizing colorism. Because if we stop weaponizing colorism, then we can press her like, wait a minute, child, wait a minute. Like, I get that you upset about being triggered about whatever, but this right here. But we can't do that if we are inside of our own communities, still celebrating someone that's lighter or dark, someone's lighter being prettier or being better. If we're still doing that inside of our communities, then it allows her to play victim. That's what I'm saying. It is easily fixed if we stop doing that, because if we stop doing that, then you would have listened to the black women who were saying, she ain't black, something wrong. Do you see what I'm saying?
But what's so funny is I don't even know if you could do that, because growing up, I'm not light skinned at all. But I have real curly hair. And if you look at my daughters, both of their, if you look at my kids, both of their parents were black, or whatever they want to call us, right? But because I had curly hair, my hair was long and curly, I got questioned about my ethnicity a lot. All the way until college. Are you black? You look Indian. You look this. You look that. You look that. And I'm clearly darker than her. And then it's so weird because to my light side of the family, which is my mom's side, I'm the dark girl. But my dad's side of the family were the darker shade, and I'm the light-skinned girl. And I had to somehow find a way. Oh, well, you're fair, or your hair, or what's good hair, bad hair, all this stuff. All I know is this. There should not be, I can't stop what nobody else do, black women. We got to stop worrying about white women and why they want to be us. What we got to stop doing is stop creating space so they can. That's my, like I said, I'm not here to blame nobody. Players gonna play, haters gonna hate, ballers gonna ball, shot callers gonna call. That's what they gonna do. Okay, so the people are going to do these things, and this is and we know their nature. Now, what are we going to do? That is just the main point. I'm tired of talking about Rachel. First of all, the heifer can braid. Excuse me, I can't. I mean, she learned how to be black more than some of these black women out here, and I can't. My tongue hurts for saying that. But how dare you let another woman out black you? Instead of getting mad at her, won't you step up?
Oh,
but that's my point.
That's the word that only a black woman can come on here and say. Let me make that very much known.
How you gonna let a white woman out black you and then got the audacity to let your anger out black her then? Instead, we talking every time you talk about this crazy woman, you're giving her space, you're giving her a platform. Sometimes silence is the answer. When you see them crazy women doing it, remain silent about it and you step up. We start pushing the black women like Doc up here, and we push her. You know what I'm saying? Like, dog, we gotta.
But that's my point. My point is that the creation of space for her to bend a wedge is because we're wrapped up in colorism still. Because we still arguing about, is she really black because her hair curly and this person.
We got way more. This is what I tell my students. We got way more than our ancestors ever had. All this crap is an excuse, and excuses are tools of incompetence. I don't want to hear it. We got everything in the palm of our finger. We in the dawn of the age of Aquarius. We got everything at the palm of our hands. Anything we want to know, anything we want to be, anything we want to learn. There is no excuse in 2020. Stop blaming the white man and blame your steps.
Okay, so we got a Facebook comment first where Maurice Franklin says slavery weaponized colorism, Doc. And one that is a fact.
Or did it?
That is a fact. Slavery did weaponize colorism.
No. Colorism, again.
Pigmentocracy. You work it down. My bad.
Slavery weaponized pigmentocracy.
Pigmentocracy. I got it.
There's a difference between pigmentocracy and colorism.
I'm there with you, Doc. I'm there with you. Let me correct the terminology based off of what you laid down, based off of the code that you laid down. Got me? So yeah, slavery. He says, "Wait, slavery weaponized colorism," and let's turn that into slavery weaponized pigmentocracy, and let's say that colorism is
Result.
not necessarily ideology or behavior or ideology that one can also that we have adopted as a result of that. So one thing that I'm going to push back on you, Stacey, with is the first step is we have to look and unpack where things come from in order to move forward. Half the time when black people are going through these things like good hair and bad hair and blah blah blah, we're not even conscious, or we're not conscious of the fact that we're engaging in what's anti-black. Honestly, y'all, we can
Mental
call
health.
it, but it's anti-black. And when you ask critical questions to black people, like, well, what do you mean by good hair? You will have a whole conversation that will ultimately lead you to whiteness, but they won't come out and say it because that's not in their intentionality. So it's gonna first take intentionality. It's gonna first take a mental capacity on our parts. That's
mental,
not
but what it's going to take is us going to these black therapists. We need to normalize mental health. We need to normalize mental health. Mental health, the DNA of slavery and the trauma of slavery is found in our DNA, regardless if we've experienced it or not. Not only that, it is passed down. Your parents tell you to shut up and listen to the police. You're going to tell your kids to shut up and listen to the police. They tell their kids. So, you know what I'm saying? We have to, first of all, tell black people it's okay to take it to the Lord in prayer. And then it's okay to go to your daggone therapist on Monday and cry it out on somebody's couch. We can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, we got to start doing it. And those.
Stacey, we can't hear you. Have you muted yourself? Or what's up?
The connection.
Somebody calling. You should have joined from your laptop. Sis, my bad.
Sorry. Somebody is calling me, and I'm trying to tell them to stop. But okay, needless to say, we need to normalize therapy. And I've been in therapy since I was 13 because I was bullied a lot because of my hair, my skin color, who my parents were, them being a teacher and a preacher in the hood. Okay, I grew up in the hood, but because we grew up in the hood and they were prominent people, I got picked at a lot. So I literally had to be, seeing the therapist since I was about 13. And sometimes I don't see him for years, and then sometimes I'm like, okay, I need to go. But nothing is wrong with me. Matter of fact, me and my kids are in family therapy now because I went through a divorce. And when you go through something trauma like that, on top of the trauma that is in your DNA, all of a sudden you feel your heart beating, all of a sudden you feel all these palpitations and it's anxiety and you can't explain it. And all I'm saying is, if you can't make it to a therapist, hey man, hit me up on my Facebook. I'll talk to you. Talk to somebody, because this is what I teach my kids. You can't hold it in. When we hold all this hurt in, we hold Tamar Rice in, we hold Trayvon Martin in, we're holding Breonna in, and all we're doing, and all I see is every time we hold this in, if we don't know how to become numb to it and find a way to not ignore it per se, but push where it can't even happen no more, or if it does, it happens at a lower rate. Until we understand that, we're going to continue to do that. So normalize mental health. Start talking to these therapists, and I'm not talking to white therapy, because if you went to college, we all know that white mental health, those doctors did not cater to us. So find somebody. I know Taraji, I think Taraji got something where she does mental health or some type of counseling for people. So see if you can find or join that, or find a group. Like I said, so those groups are free. Sometimes you may not be an alcoholic, or you may drink a lot, but even if you find something, all I'm saying is find some form of release, because we are not releasing our anger, which is causing us to be crazy, which is causing us not to come up with a strategic plan that will work. We build nations. We birth kings, we birth queens. Why can't we come back?
Thank you, Stacey. So,
and that's why,
y'all. Let me put these comments out real quick.
That's exactly why white women want to be us, right? I have a piece that's coming out called "Why White Women Want to Be Black Women," right? Because we have to understand, and I know I've said this with y'all several times, is that the Eve gene, right? The DNA makeup of genealogy, or the start of humanity, comes from a Black woman, right? And so this need to want to be us is the disease of white supremacy festering inside of them, that then want to then be the start, the beginning, right? And we know that women, regardless of color, birth life. And so that's where the problem is. And I've said this, I think, several times over, even with these doppelgangers, that this idea is that white people are right now facing
Decepticons.
Decepticons. Let me be clear. Decepticons. That white people right now are facing epistemological ignorance. They are facing the fact that they have been taught who they were incorrectly. And that now they're getting ready to be the minority in this country, like they are the minority in the rest of the world. They're in pure panic.
I'm
And
sorry,
No, Stacey.
they're already in
Wait.
minority. I'm sorry, they're already minorities. What they do,
What?
they make people that are from Egypt and other countries claim themselves as white. If you look for the arrest record in Orange County alone, in my city, they do not have a. We went to the city hall. They do not have a Hispanic arrest record. If the Hispanic person is light enough, that Hispanic person is labeled as white, which is why the arrest records of white people are skewed. And then if the Hispanic is dark enough, they are arrested as black. The Hispanics went down there. We went down there like 2 years ago to fight, and they still haven't put Hispanic on there. So don't let those numbers are skewed. The numbers are created to be skewed. So I just want to put that out there.
Real
So
quick,
yeah,
y'all, we got
you
house.
and
two
to
have
that,
presented.
Hey,
you
y'all.
two
Hey, we have a
presented-
show to run. Guys,
Yeah.
we have people who are in the audience that we often get to who have comments, right? Kat Mahari says, I disagree. And we have no idea what you disagree with, Kat, but we often bring you on as one of the audience members. You often participate. So I want to encourage you to make sure that you're prepared to speak on that when you do come on. China Dickerson says, preach, Stacey.
And please come on, China. You have had a
lot to
to
say.
contribute. So
Yes,
please.
I would
Yeah.
love to hear her.
And
But what I
also, who else said something? China Dickinson also said PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, or as Dr. Joy DeGroot calls it, post-traumatic slave disorder.
And that's what I want to speak
syndrome.
on, because Stacey has brought up a lot of things as far as like giving sound advice as far as things that we should do. However, I've worked along with Kashama and a few other people. I've worked in the HIV field for the Black LGBTQ community for a little bit of time. One of the leading arguments was, how do you convince someone who does not love and care about themselves to do something that requires them to love and care about themselves? And the idea of using contraception or whatever else in order to do safe practices around sex. Now, I extend that argument for Black people as a whole. Like, this is a group of individuals, me included, that has been successfully convinced that we are not worth it, not valuable. And we have the detailed information about this, because if you heard about the doll test, which I believe the last time they did it was in 2016, it probably happened again, but the results have consistently always been the same. And the doll test, for individuals who don't know, is very simple. You sit a child in front of a Black doll and a white doll. You ask them questions like, which doll is the most pretty, which one is the most likely to go to college, or which one is the most evil or bad, blah, blah, blah. All good qualities and traits were attributed to the white doll. All negative traits were attributed to the Black doll. And when we look at how young it takes you to be how anti-Black in this country, we were looking at ages, I believe they were looking at ages between 3 and 6 in those particular tests. And this is conversations where you're not having a conversation with your child at 3 and 6 about how to be pro-Black, how to love yourself and your own skin and color. Like, you're trying to just treat them, quote unquote, as a child. Like, you're raising them without social political context
but Duke,
where they are.
But Duke, that's the problem. That's the problem.
Absolutely.
We are not having the conversation early enough. And my father had the conversation with me very early, which is why I turned out the way that I turned out. And I'm not saying that if I would have took the doll test between 3 and 6, I wouldn't have been what the numbers were. But my father actively had the conversation. And today, even growing up, I used to think, oh, this militant Black man, I wouldn't have called him that. I just would have called him a crazy Negro, right? Growing up, like, he's so pro-Black, or he's so Black people this, or so I hate white people. It drove me crazy growing up, even though I would hear it all the time. But now that I'm an adult, now that I've gone on HBCU, now that I've seen it play out, now that I know the fears of white folks, now that I see it, I'm grateful for everything that he put inside of me, because that's our problem, Duke. We're not having the conversation early enough. We are pretending like they are in a, you have to understand that children learn the most between the ages of 0 and 5.
Talk about it.
If you're not having a pro-Black conversation with your child, you are at fault. because you are then allowing them to absorb whatever they get.
But watch
But
this.
we're also looking at we're living in a world where adults are traumatized.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
Prepared to have that conversation with their children.
So this is correct. So I was about to say that because I teach elementary. So here we go. And I teach where these kids are believing what you all are saying. So my thing is this, and one of my friends had his name is Chuck Hobbs. He's a big lawyer. I don't want to say big, but he's a prominent lawyer in Tallahassee, Florida. But one thing he asked was, when was the first time you had your black male teacher? And to read the comments, that a lot of the people were saying high school and they were just coaches, or they were, college, they were the professors. No one has ever preschool teacher, male teacher. And guys, people like you two with all of this knowledge, it's time for y'all to get back in the educational system. We cannot depend on the parents. We see what state that they're in. So we can't say, where's the parents? Where's the parents? Brother, parents are just messed up because they were broken children that became shattered adults that had broken children. And we're trying to save these broken children from becoming what they become. So it's a cycle where it's really going to take a village. A village is a group of people to raise one child. Means one. So if y'all got a degree, man, even if it's for 3 years, get back into the education field, because this is what I preach. Thank God I teach music and not, but these are the conversations that I have with my students to build that self-esteem, to build that confidence, because they was talking about this one, just.
So real quick, I want to make the audience aware. Hold on, Duke. I want to make the audience aware that we are moving into overtime, right? Mm-hmm. We normally do this live stream from 7 p.m. to 8:30, but because of the importance of the Breonna Taylor topic, we are extending this. We gave that time and we agreed to go have an overtime to be able to deal with these Decepticons. Now, the interesting thing about these Decepticons, and also we are going to open up the chat. We're going to bring people in who want to come in and talk with us and join the conversation. And Adam, if you can put the link in the chat now so that people can see that and start getting ready to be backstage. But one thing about these Decepticons is, one, we've addressed women, right? And that's why I'm so glad y'all sisters came on here to eat that subject up, right? Because y'all did. And we've only addressed the Decepticons who've come out of the closet. Now we haven't addressed. We got people, right?
I've heard a name.
We got people. Some people call him Talcum X, right? That who is saying he's a brother. He's not a woman, and he's sticking to it. He said he was 50% black when he first came out, and then now I think people have started questioning him. He's chiseled that down to 25%, and now people are questioning more, and pictures of his family has popped up. Why don't I just say it, Sean King?
Wait, what? Sean King's not black?
That's what we want to know. How do we
want to know? There's questions.
People need answers, right? But up until now, Sean King has treated this situation like y'all ain't got no right to question my black.
Well. Let's take it here. Guys. Let's just imagine if this was slavery, right? He may be a quadroon. Don't do that.
That's exactly what he's claiming to be, a quadroon.
But what's wrong with? But what's so funny is we had to accept quadroons back in the day, and quadroons actually were the ones that helped us when it came time to run away, and because they passed as white, a lot of them. So all I'm saying is this: now, if you were born purebred white, you only got 1-3% up in you. No, bro, you ain't white. I mean, you white, you know what I'm saying? But if you got your grandma black, your great grandma black, you know what I'm saying? Because at the same time, y'all got to look at it this way. And I have friends like this. I have, matter of fact, 2 friends, one's black, one white, they're married. Their son came out with blonde hair, blue eyes. If you look at him right now, he will pass as white. Who's to tell that boy right now that he ain't black? You, when his daddy DNA tells him that he's African American because the color of his skin and the color of his eyes, when we create everyone.
Okay, so again, my concern is also is not necessarily and I brought this up with Kamala too. It's not necessarily your black grandparent or the one drop rule, as we like to use it, or everything. I go about how the psyche of that person and how they are raised. Blackness is a geopolitical designation, and you do grow up black.
If that's the case,
wait. Before we go in there, let's bring up Sean King's family, who he was raised with. the mother he was raised with, the father he was raised with, and all those brothers who kind of look like the McGregors down there in Georgia.
I'm so done with you.
Now,
So this is
who he was raised with. Doc, can you? Oh, you don't not unmute yet. We will be ready for you when you come. Just unmute when you get ready. Make sure you realize that. And Stacy.
Oh no,
This is who raised him.
I'm ready.
This is who raised him, and that's him on the bottom left.
Oh, that looked like Obama's family. I'm trying to see the problem.
That was probably the problem with Obama.
I mean, that looks like a picture of Obama's family. That looks like Obama mama and him right there.
Which is precisely the problem with Obama.
Oh, okay. But see, this is the colorism. Obama's darker, so he gets a pass to be black, but Sean Keen's lighter, so he doesn't.
Hey, I'm not talking about the past. I'm talking about, what I find problematic.
I don't find it problematic when that man. All I got to say is that man has. If it wasn't for him and people like him, Trayvon Martin case wouldn't be told. Like, I also got to look
Trayvon Martin case, we would know about that regardless of that.
I don't know. But
yes, we would. You in Orlando? How do you not know, Stacey?
Yeah, listen. You knew because you was in Sanford. I didn't know until those kids in Tallahassee.
Trayvon ain't from Sanford. Trayvon is from Miami.
It don't matter. You asked me a question. I'm telling you the answer. Okay, now, if you don't believe my answer, then that's on you. I knew nothing about Trayvon until those kids in Tallahassee, like TJ Legacy Cole. You had Lucas, one of the guys that marshaled them. Rest in peace. They're the one that brought it to my attention. I don't know because I don't watch the news.
So why are you giving Talcum X credit for it then?
I'm not. I'm just saying it's people like him and those kids in Tallahassee that brought it national. Like, dog, it's not the credit. People do the work. All I'm saying is if he is not black, then what? Now that we find out
we got another Decepticon on our hands.
Okay,
who's lying to us?
So now what we're going to do about it then?
Good question. But the first thing is, you're saying if he's not black, the main problem is that this dialogue, what we're having around who he is, and let's find out the truth, is a dialogue that is being shut down and is not acceptable except for up until recently, since these women came out. And now I'm asking you all, like, we need to address this, and what is a suitable way to address it? Because he's claimed that his mother had an affair with some light-skinned black man, right? And everything is looking real sketchy right now. All we know is he was raised with a whole white family, and he looks white now. So
this is to me the issue. To me, the issue is that, and this is what I said even about the white women claiming to be black. There's a difference between being phenotypically black and then being politically black. And what often happens is that inside the black community, if you are politically black, meaning that you are then supportive of black pro-remedial policies, if you believe in affirmative action,
talk about it.
If you believe in equality amongst black people as far as representation, if you believe in any of the things that then make you then politically black, then your phenotypical blackness is not necessarily questioned. And so what to me the issue is not a Sean King or a Jessica Krug or anything like that. The question is us then allowing somebody who is then politically black then to claim phenotypical blackness. That's where we get into the problem, is that every time we then decide that someone's politically black, then that automatically gives them the access then to be phenotypically black. And to me, that is where we have to make the distinction. I have, not to be academic about this, but I have another piece coming out with a co-author of mine where we look at a theory that I created, which is called insulated blackness. And insulated blackness talks about if you are not of a certain experience, then you're not going to then understand then policies and political blackness, or things that we push in a political sphere to then get closer to our equality in the current government construction. And so to me, that's the issue. Sean King gets to pass right now, regardless of phenotypical blackness, because of his alignment as being politically black, and also because he's married a black woman and then had some black children. So
how does this make him different from Rachel Dolezal or Jessica Krug then? Weren't those white women out there all, on the front lines and down for the cause.
I see
And
what you're saying.
also actually loves black people deep down in her sanctified black soul. So I mean, what's the difference then? If we
No,
cancel,
I'm not saying there's a difference. I'm saying that's the root of the problem. I'm saying
Correct.
I'm saying
okay, got you.
I'm not saying that there's a difference. I'm saying that is you said, what is the distinguishing factor? What is the barometer? I'm establishing what the barometer is. Now we can argue back and forth about Sean King all we want to. I'm just establishing I'm establishing the barometer the same way I established the barometer when it comes to these white women, right? Pigmentocracy and colorism is the role there. Whereas in this case, what's more of the role is political blackness, right? Which is why Sean King has gotten this pass all along.
Well, thank you, Dr. Nelson. We have some guests that have come on from the audience, and I'm sure they have some good insight. I would just like to say, out of respect for black people in the movement, he should, like show us that 23andMe or something. I mean, but we got formally. And we also got China Dickerson, who has been blowing the inbox up. Thank you for joining us. I believe it's your first time. Welcome. And Alafia, all those good things.
Alafia.
Oh, sure. So yes, I just saw, I'm not sure, I think a friend shared you on my Facebook, and I saw it popping up in my feed as I was doing work. So I first joined on YouTube, but then I saw that it was really on Facebook where it was popping. So then I switched over to the Facebook chat. I just wanted to say a couple of things. First, I know I seemed a little assertive in the chat, but I do thank you, gentlemen, for lifting up these conversations, because I think not enough Black men are, I wouldn't say they don't contribute, but are not allowed to contribute as intellectuals when we're talking about our community, because people assume they're going to have toxic masculinity and all of these other ideas. So I appreciate you all being, I guess, brave enough to take whatever criticism that folks give you, including myself. And then the second thing I wanted to say, Dr. Sharice and Stacey, I was very excited and appreciated your understanding of the issues. And even when I found myself disagreeing with you two, I appreciated that you could back up what you were saying. And then the last thing I'll say, and then I think there's another young woman here who wants to speak regarding specific to Sean King. I think the difference between him and the other two women, which is not necessarily a consequential difference, but I think it needs to be said. My understanding is with the other two women, and if I'm wrong, please enlighten me, they continue to walk around under the assumption, with others assuming that they were Black. My understanding is that Rachel Dolezal and these other young women never actually said, I am Black during their work. A Black person never actually said, Rachel Dolezal, are you Black? Like, Duke, no one has never asked you, Duke, are you Black? Because people just don't talk that way in regular conversation. So they were just walking around living under an assumption that they never decided to correct. Whereas with Sean King, he has been beat over the head, and I still don't know how I feel about it, but he has been consistently beat over the head, like, are you Black? Are you Black? Are you Black? And has been profiting over confirming that he is Black. So again,
no, China. These women confirmed that they were Black.
Oh, they did.
When they applied for grant funding,
they did.
When they applied for grant funding, they applied, and I just want to just correct the record, not to cut you off, but they applied for grant funding as Black women. They got book deals as Black women.
Join the NAACP.
No. They were very, So I just want to put that out there.
Oh, okay, so they actually.
White people can join the NAACP.
My apologies. So then they're the same as Sean King. I don't know though with Sean King, it's so difficult because I think to Stacey's point, there was this rule, right? And we just have to decide whether we still embrace it today, right? Where one drop and you're Black, right? And so we have to decide as Black people, there are these, and I don't want to get into this.
And that rule wasn't created by us. That's the other thing that we have to be very, very clear about.
Right, but looking at his picture that you just showed, looking at his picture,
we just have to decide, and again, this is a different conversation, what we consider Black. Because as you all know, there's also like the ADOS and the FBA. There are all these different, like, well, you're not Black if you're not African descendant, born in America. You're not a descendant of slaves. There are all of these different definitions out there for what is Black. And I don't think we have even decided what is Black. So it's like, how do you determine if someone is Black?
I agree with that. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, when do you say I'm Black? Like, when are you able to claim that you are Black? Now, I think there also difference is too between Rachel and Sean. Is Sean built his platform off of police brutality and getting the Black news out there. Rachel then was just more so in their own domain and got called out and it became national news. You know what I'm saying? He was already in the limelight. All I'm going to say is this: looking at those pictures, he doesn't look fully white as a kid. I also literally have a cousin. My cousin is light skinned, but his daddy is Italian. When he was born, he was blonde hair, blue eye. But now that he's older, he has curly hair and his eyes got darker. And it's like, all I'm saying is I'm going to accept the human being's spirit first, because I don't know what happened. Because in that same instance, I've seen it where, like I said, there'll be a quadroon who get raped by the slave master, has the baby, but the baby, we all know the baby was born by a Black woman, but they will raise the baby as a white child, and that baby will have children. And, you know what I'm saying? So with being in America right now, all of us mixed with all kind of crap. You know what I'm saying?
The thing though about Sean King, we talking about what constitutes Black identity, right? And now that gets into a conversation of whether biracial people are considered Black, whether we're using this antiquated and some people might even find offensive term of quadroon, right? We're going all the way back to slavery to just to even find the words.
And can I just add?
It originates from slavery. So when we're talking about Blackness, right? And not going into all these degrees, let's just talk about the facts. Sean King claims to have a light-skinned Black man as his father that he never met.
Okay, that's a lot of light-skinned.
Let me get the facts out to people. And otherwise, it was raised and reared in a white family, looking white and all this stuff. And people are saying that they don't think that story is true as far as his father being some light-skinned Black man who was a stranger in the night that his mother cheated on his stepfather or the father who raised him or who signed his birth certificate with. People are saying
why is that not believable when those same people
can't be true?
But
they don't
why
believe
can't
it because they're looking at him.
But that's everybody's damn story in America.
No, it's not.
Okay, all I got to say is I got 5 siblings. We do not all have the same father. Okay?
But all y'all Black though.
3 of us do. Well, some people thought my sister was Puerto Rican. Some people thought they did. You're not gonna
Puerto Ricans Black, Stacey.
Oh, are they? Because some people don't think they are.
That way, all Black people.
We know those people come from Africa.
But if you want to state the fact, if you just want to state the facts,
do some housekeeping in the back. But we're gonna get to Kat.
Okay, I'm about to say, well, we make everybody.
Yeah, hold up, Stacey. Hold up, Stacey. Y'all gonna drive me, not tonight. I do have something to add. And I come from I think this is a beautiful panel because it's full of diverse voices of Blackness. And that's always a beautiful thing. And then 2, I think so far from what I'm hearing, I'm like to the left of to the left. I'm like Jared Ball, Frantz Fanon, when it comes to issues of Blackness and Black liberation. You actually asked me a question, what do I disagree with? I disagreed with the presentation, the presentation of the context around Barack Obama. I think Barack Obama was a neoliberal candidate chosen by Wall Street to enact what he enacted. And I'm from the 314, that Ferguson area. So anytime people think it's all right to bring almost like my name up, I'm always like, bitch, you weren't there, you know? And so I just want us all to be sensitive because we have all perhaps have been part of different movements in our different localities, you know, when we speak about those things. So I just want to say that, and I did want to, so I want to say that thing about Barack Obama. That's what I completely disagree with. He's a neoliberal picked candidate, picked by Wall Street. He played with blackness in a similar way. Think of pop culture to Drake. He played with blackness in a similar way to, now I'm not going to say exactly, but he definitely played with blackness and played with the aesthetics of blackness because, like has been stated, I don't think we were raised to be consumers. I think blackness within the white supremacist imperial context is a consumption.
Mm-hmm.
We are not consumers, we are consumed. And people have consumed us and we have consumed ourselves, been fed back, the sloth. You know what I mean?
Say that again. No one consumed us. We consumed ourselves. That's
No,
how they were
no,
gonna
no,
have
no.
to.
No,
That's not
All right,
what I said.
That's
That's
not
not
what
what
you
I
said.
said.
Oh,
That's
okay.
not what I said. That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Well, what you said,
Let's
just as long as
walk
you
it
don't
back.
cuss, then don't call me the B. Don't call me no.
That's not what I said. I said we've been fed back that.
Okay,
Because
okay.
anti-blackness posits you as something to be consumed, something to be farmed, something to be stated. Yes, you may run wild occasionally, but will bring you back onto the land and get you back to your trough. You know what I'm saying? So, I just wanted to make those points because I'm definitely appreciating this conversation, and I'm also being strengthened by it, and because we're all things that are real to our realities. You know what I'm saying?
And we're all phenotypically black.
Yeah, and we're all phenotypically black.
That mean.
And I just definitely wanted to put that thing up. Barack Obama, the neoliberal candidate, imperialist. You don't become the agenda of the U.S. of A is white supremacist capitalism. That's the agenda. That's the agenda, point, goal, dream, myth. That's it. You know what I mean? I know like a lot of people like to talk about racial capitalism.
Before you go,
I think it's a little bit redundant. I'm sorry.
Before you go, because you said you only wanted to make 2 points, but I don't want to lose you. What did you mean when you said that he plays, and you brought up Drake too, but we're not talking about Drake, but Obama, when you say he plays with his blackness, what does that mean? He plays with
his blackness. He plays with, specifically within the U.S. context, he plays with AAVE. He plays with certain kinds of ways in which he's walking. When he's walking to get on his plane and he knows the camera's on.
He's disingenuous to being black. Is that what you're saying?
Am I saying he is disingenuous to being black? I think his blackness is real to him. I'm still saying he's still playing with it.
Al Green and Amazing Grace.
And he has a strategy. And he has a strategy that is built. He himself says, he comes from a Reaganite background. He is more of a Reaganite. So think what Reagan did. You know what I mean? He can be a constitutional lawyer and definitely still represent Reagan. In fact, because the Constitution was created by white supremacists, I don't see how that's contradictory at all. And that's all the things I wanted to say. But I do have to go because I'm a dancer and I got some stuff popping up.
Understood.
Actually, we have to wrap up, y'all. But no, first of all, let me read some of these comments, and then I'm gonna go ahead and thank all of our guest panelists for coming on. We had so we had somebody say that Cat. Cleo said Cat is on point, genius. We already had the question answered up there with blackness. Cleo Monago said Stacey is tripping. Don't say nothing, Stacey. D Watch said
I'm not, because I like my job.
D Watch said Barack is not black, he's beige. That's funny. And somebody said, all right, Cat is right, he plays with it. All right, so those are some of the comments that we had, and we'll bring some more stuff with the family feedback, give y'all more of what was said. But again, Stacey, Dr. Sharice Nelson, as well as you, China, too, who came on a little bit later. I want to thank you, sisters, sincerely for your insight and for your passion. I want to thank all of our viewers out there in the audience, everybody in the chat, YouTube, Facebook. Who else are joining us? Just YouTube and Facebook, right? Don't forget to visit melanatedsolutions.com. Don't forget to check us out. Go to Black Men's Exchange National on Facebook as well to also be updated on different live streams that we have, as well as follow it on Instagram, Black Men's Exchange on Instagram as well.
Again, to China's point, I'm really glad that you came on because the different energy was so appreciated. And to your point about saying that we have to be, it's something that we strive for as a community as a whole is trying to make sure that we're not afraid and engaging in dialogue with each other. And too often we allow misconceptions and miscommunication to prevent us from getting to the nitty gritty, if you will. And I'm just really glad that we are in this space. We hope to see you all again. Thank you, as Kashama said. But we're going to wrap up for tonight. We hope to see you in 2 weeks for our next Melanated Solutions media programming. If you want to stay up with Kashama and myself, as well as other guests, again, come to Black Men's Exchange because we will be discussing a topic next week on Black Men's Exchange programming. So, catch you all
Good
later.
night, y'all. Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night,
Peace,
everyone.
Melanated family.